Hello there! You've clicked on this video. That means you want to make something with cardboard on your own. You want to know how to make anything you want. You can't find a tutorial on it because no one has made one before and you want to be original. Well, this video is right for you. This video tells you everything about how to make any gun you want out of cardboard. This video also tells you how to use tools that you can just find everywhere instead of the S or whatever. They use like angle grinders and like sanding machines and stuff like that. We don't have that, or like laser printers or whatever. Like some of them use that. Well, not everyone has those. The tools we use is basically simple and you can get it everywhere and it's cheap. But before you listen to everything I say, I would like you to make a judgment yourself. I will now show you a bit my arsenal and my recent two guns, and you can decide for yourself should you take my word for it or not. Because basically this is everything I do, most of them at least. And yeah, if you learn from this video, you can probably do the same eventually. So basically, if you think they look nice, and they all have working parts by the way, then you can keep watching. If you don't think they're nice and you don't like them, bye. So here's a screenshot from my arsenal video, and these two are my recent guns. You can see, yeah, I've built a lot of things and they all have working parts, and then the M2 Browning with like loads of bullets and everything, and the UMP45. So there's 13 parts to making any cardboard model you want that is good. So first of all, mindset or reason, time, research, measuring, understanding, patience, trial and error, experience, thinking, practice, and finally, of course, tools and space and luck. The timestamps will be all in the description of these parts, so you can just come back and watch them if you need it. And yeah, let's get into the video. If you're new here, subscribe. That would help a lot. I spent like 3 months on this video and it took me a long time because it kept on messing up and I had to redo a lot of parts and stuff. And I would really be happy if you watch this video and subscribe, like, share to your friends, comment something. And yeah, I hope you enjoy and you learn something. Let's start. And funny thing is, this was supposed to be a 1000 subscriber special. I didn't expect to, get 3000 subs in like a month from my Reddit post, and yeah. But just this video was a lot of pain and hard work to make because there's this screaming kid downstairs who just screams every day when I try and record, and every time I record, some of his words, like some of his screams just get into the video and I have to cut it out and I have to fix it and re-record. It's so annoying. And anyways, I spent like 3 months, and yeah, just please do it if you found this video helpful. And now let's start. Yeah. So before you start any gun, anything actually, doing anything, ask yourself one question. Do you want to build this thing out of cardboard? Do you want to? And why? So if you don't want to build the gun, for example, you're making a gun. If you don't want to build the gun, you ain't gonna enjoy the process, and you're going to cut corners and skip parts and make it really bad. And if your answer to that is no, then don't do it. Choose another one. Choose something that you're actually going to enjoy making. Everyone starts somewhere. You aren't going to make the best cardboard gun or whatever it is on your first try. Like, ever starting out, you won't be making the best thing ever. So everyone has to start somewhere. Everyone has to have some experience building up, and so you have to know that and don't give up on the first whatever you did. Even like me, you see on the first image of my montage, I made paper guns for a year at first as well, and I made a hybrid in between. Well, the montage doesn't exist because the video file messed up and the whole thing was gone, so I had to re-record the whole intro, and I just don't want to waste time making it again. Second question, what are you after? If you want to make a display model, like on the wall or something, you wouldn't make working parts in it, but focus on all the details. If you wanted to make it as a toy, you would spend time on making working parts and making it work, like for example a working trigger or a working charging handle, whatever you're making. You will focus mainly on the working parts and making sure that they work well and less on details. Unless, of course, you're like me, you want both. You like to have them display and you want to play with them time to time. Your time will be doubled. your time to making a gun will be doubled. Which brings us to the next part. My average time to making a gun, up to 20 millimeter, because anything above that is going to be very big, it's 30 to 60 hours, or sometimes even more. Here is a chart that I will show you, which is about all the times, and just read it as I go. In a span of 1 to 3 weeks, and every time I sit down and start working on it, I spend at least 2 hours. It's not like, you know, 15 minutes and then just do something else and 15 minutes again. That won't work. It's not gonna do anything. It's not gonna work. And I do that, and I don't clean my stuff up until I finish my gun. Which, if you have, like, for example, crazy parents or whatever, or like you like to be clean, you have to clean your stuff up. Well, basically, for me, it takes me 1 hour to clean up everything. So about 2.5 hours would be needed if you have to clean up as well, because it makes a lot of mess by just cutting stuff in everywhere, like the dust and yeah, you get what I mean. So if you're gonna make something, be aware of that. Like everything else in life, it takes time, and you should be aware of that, and not just you know if you know you don't have time and you're really busy with life, don't do anything. Like, for example, if you have an exam coming up next week, stop doing shit like this. Go fucking study. Yeah. And well, what takes time isn't just making the gun itself. It includes research, which is the next topic. Yes! So, to make a good model and make it as realistic as possible, you will need some research. I usually spend a week or so to do some research, and I do that when I'm free. I don't like sit down and actually allocate like time to do it. I just do it between free time, I guess. So, watch videos, ask questions to people you know. It's a good way of research, or generally like using Google because we have internet now. I've included a bunch of websites and YouTube channels for these kinds of research. Some of them I can't really post because they are auction sites for guns, and I don't think YouTube allows that. So you have to go search it out yourself. I'll put the name down there as well. So, my main research channels are Forgotten Weapons and CN Arsenal. They are really good. They have really good stuff in there. And websites include Wiki, auction sites, because they have really good pictures. But you have to know what you're searching. Otherwise, the gun might be wrong. So, like, any website that seems reliable, etc. So, yeah. But it's really useful to find somewhere where people like who likes guns generally, or has guns actually, I should say, and ask them questions instead of searching stuff up which might be wrong or old. And also using 3D models, which it's kind of a risky and dangerous thing, but go on Sketchfab and look up models and compare it to a real picture, so of course you have to find a real picture first and then find a 3D model so you can see some of the unseen parts probably. But some of them, no, most of them are really low quality and bad generally. So, yeah, it can help a little bit, but not much. So don't take that 3D model and just make it one-to-one to that 3D model. Use the actual real picture, and remember, yeah, you can know the shapes of the gun, like different shapes that you can't see. For example, the handguard of the G36, where you can't really see it from the side, you have to look at the front. Or like if you're lazy and can't find the front of it, you can go on the sites. Yeah, 3D models. You can also look up pictures of individual parts of the gun and compare them to the picture you chose. because sometimes pictures can be airsoft and some are real, and sometimes you might not know, and the airsoft ones are not exactly like the real pictures. One example is the AK-74U or the AKS-74U, I don't know. But so the real one is chambered in 545, which is I think it's a 545. So the mag is not really curved, but if you look at this one, which is the airsoft one, the mag is curved as fuck. It's the AK-47 mag kind of thing. So that's really dangerous. So you have to be careful and be smart of what you are searching up and what you're looking at. What if you can't find any information on it? Well, either you haven't done enough, or there really isn't much information about the gun. Well, use guessing and luck. Well, guess the shapes for some parts that you don't know, or be lazy, simplify it, skip a few parts. Okay. What if your research have different contradicting pictures and different contradicting sources and different facts, I would say? Then use a video of a real one. So like Ian from Forgotten Weapons, he mostly references the models that he is showing, which is very good, which that makes it so you know what you're looking at. So you can compare the video to the picture and see what your picture is, because you can basically know what variant you're looking at in the picture from a video, because there's video evidence that means that the picture is not airsoft if it's real. Okay, enough talking. Let me just show you how to do it now, finally. And this is me doing research for my Wolfer PP. So here you can see I just searched up Wolfer PP because I'm searching for my PP. That sounds weird, but okay, yeah, let's continue. So yeah, just look at pictures, look at a general image of what it looks like, and then now get into a wiki page and do some research, like look at all the models of how many variations are there. Then go to YouTube. This is just me looking through the videos of kinds of PPs and see which one I actually want to go for. So to know that, you have to do more research by just looking at wiki. It's actually pretty simple. If you're good at it, you don't even need to take 2 hours or 1 hour. It's just like 30 minutes is enough. But unless your gun's really rare. And so yeah, you can see me. I'm just watching some Forgotten Weapons and looking at the stuff, looking at like general features of the thing and going over it briefly and going back to wiki and stuff. So yeah, you can see there's like a trillion different ones. So well, lucky for me, I'm making the PP, not the PPK, and then there's like PPKL, PPKP or something, and then S and etc. But yeah. So now this is just me continuing looking at videos and stuff. One thing that's important as well is you should look at disassembly videos. So, later on you will see me looking at a how does the gun actually work internally video kind of animation thing. Those are semi-trustable, kinda good. Um, and yeah, just you can if for like your main primary sources doesn't have disassembly, you can look those up and see how the actual things look like. And like the hammer, for example, for this one, you actually have to use those videos as references. If you want to see how like very very precisely, you can go to my Wolfer PP how to the tutorial on it, which I've talked about it when talking about how to make the hammer. So now you can see, there we go. This is the disassembly video and etc. because I can't find any on Forgotten Weapons. So here you can see I'm looking at everything and basically using that as reference. Now your research should have everything, like mostly the models that you want. You have to research about the model you want, like specific details or like notable special things about it. And so now I'm going to show you a clip of my Luger getting the picture, because now we need the pictures of the thing. Now that you have done your research, time to get a high resolution picture. So what do? Go to this website on the screen, click there, and then you should see this page. Go to auctions, past auctions, and search inventory. Just search your gun, and then you will find it. And then there's a bunch of pictures. Scroll through them, find the model you want, and then click in there. I also made a Windows version, so if you're a Windows user, skip to this part. So for this part, I managed to dig up a screen recording of me making the Luger. I thought this was like corrupted or something because it always happens. I just gave it a shot and see would it record, but it did. So here, this is actually a better example because the Lugers, there's so many more variants and stuff. And so you can see there's like a trillion different ones. So you just look at them, go over them, look at which one looks most appealing and correct. So you can see there's in the middle, October 23, 2019, there's a artillery version, and that one's not the one I'm going for, so I just click this one. I look at the pictures, like this one's really good. It has everything. It has the top, sides, and even bottom, which is amazing. Really good. So yeah, so basically you have the picture. Now what do? Click that expand picture or like zoom thing, and then press anywhere that's not the picture, like the blank space around it. And then just inspect element, and then just dig around those figure things and expand them until you find a link. Then open to new tab and either screenshot it or save the picture. Remember, check closely, is it the actual model you want, because auction sites, they have like a trillion different kinds and rare models. So yeah. So now that's your research. You should have almost everything you need. 2 pictures, 2 high resolution pictures for the best, and a basic understanding of the gun's proportions, up, down, sideways, back, front, etc., etc. And now we will go on to the measuring part, which is scaling your picture until it's real size and then drawing it out. So once you're in, click to expand, and then F12 to get inspect element, or just right click anything, and then just like find a place where you can actually right click and then inspect. Then it should be around those parts, like expand stuff, and then just click around, look around, find until you find a link, which there we go. So copy that link and then paste it in your browser again, and then just save that picture, which I'll show you now. Now save the picture and do it same for both sides, left and right. So now that's your research. You should have almost everything you need. 2 pictures, 2 high resolution pictures for the best, and a basic understanding of the gun's proportions, up, down, sideways, back, front, etc., etc. And now we will go on to the measuring part, which is scaling your picture until it's real size and then drawing it out. So this is measuring for Mac. The program that I use, cause Mac doesn't really have one, I think, or at least I can't find one yet. Use Paint S. It's a free one, of course. I don't have money, and so just get a free one. Load your picture in. It's going to appear one thing that says you have to like upgrade to actually see the whole thing or something. Just ignore it. Just press upgrade and then cancel it after it like goes upgrading. It works. It's like a loophole or something, but it still works, so that works. And now you got your picture loaded in, and just look back at your research notes and look at the lengths and stuff. And this is probably one of the most important parts, because if your basic picture is sized wrong, no matter how good you make it, it's still wrong. It will look wrong. Yeah, just look at your research and then keep resizing it. For this one, for Paint S, because you can't resize it, I use like the zoom thing. So just zoom the picture and stuff, and then if it's like, for example, a pistol, draw lines extending from the longest part of the gun and then draw it up so it's correct, and not just the front of the barrel to the back of the trigger, like the hammer part, because the bottom is actually longer. And so resize it until you get it right, and then when you get it right, you have a good picture. So yeah, and then just use a ruler. This is just, it takes a while, so I'm going to make this clip faster now. Also, just a tip, if your thing's like over 30 centimeters long, or like your ruler's length, put like dots at the edge of the ruler, and then extend it like that, and that'll work anyways. So once you've got the picture right size, it's time to draw it. Use Paint. You know, that app that is there, you don't even know why it's there, and you use it like once a year. Well, not anymore. Put in a picture, and there's a resize button on like the top bar. Just keep resizing the picture until it's right, and measure. Use like a ruler to measure the lengths and stuff, and just look at your research notes, refer back to them, look at the lengths, and then the dimensions, etc., etc., and then just keep doing this, and put a line above the most out, like the longest side of it, and so it won't like cut short, and you are actually measuring the whole gun and not just the top bit, because like this like pistol, for example, the bottom of the grip is longer than the top, so yeah. So the whole thing's 17 centimeters, and yeah, just get your ruler and measure it. If your thing that you're looking at is longer than your ruler, you can mark like the edge of the ruler and then continue measuring from there. So you can basically, yeah, you just have to remember how many dots there are, and like do basic math and add them up together to see how long the thing is, and then yeah, adjust it until you get it right. And once you've got it right, we will now draw the picture out. So now, this doesn't matter if you're on Windows or Mac, it's the same thing, you're just drawing it out. Basically, get a piece of paper, get some tape, glue it, not glue it, like just stick it on the sides, like on the edges of the picture, like the four edges, and then just stick it up on your screen, and then you can see the gun below it. Turn off all the lights around you so you can see it's pitch black and just your screen can be seen. Turn your brightness to 100 to the max, and then you would see, as you can see now, you can see the gun through the paper. And now all you have to do is draw out the gun, like following the lines. And then if some part that you don't actually know what it is, you can just leave it out and like look at it and draw it back later afterwards. And now I'm going to show you, I'm going to speed this clip up, and you can see how it takes a while, a lot of time actually. And also, pro tip, use a ruler and a pencil. Use a pencil, don't use a pen. Use a pencil so you can erase stuff and fix stuff. And also, don't press too hard unless you hate your computer. Just do like really soft lines. Yeah, glass holds up to pencil normally, unless your pencil is like diamond tip or something. And now when you got the basic shape of the thing like drawn, you just have to, as you can see, some parts I'm not sure, so I'm taking it out one side and then like adding stuff on it, drawing. And now I'm drawing the other side. You don't really have to do this 100%, but I just drew it anyways because I'm making two of these. So yeah, it's better to have two, because don't expect these pictures to last. They're going to be cut into pieces and basically destroyed, and you won't see them again after you finish your build. So I'm building two, so I draw two pictures. Simple logic. There we go. So yeah, finish your picture and it should look identical to your picture. Of course, there are a lot of different ways you can get a full-sized picture, but this is just my way because I don't have a big-ass printer. And if you use my zooming method, I don't think printers will have the real size because you zoom the picture unless you resize it, but I don't really know how printers work. And drawing probably helps a little bit because you can see the lines clearly. Now that we have our pictures drawn out and real sized, it's time to make the gun. But before actually making anything, there's some things that we need to understand, which is our next point, understanding. So, to make a good cardboard creation, there are 4 things or basic principles that you need to understand, or else you will probably fail. 1. Everything is a box. No matter what, no matter how it looks, no matter how complicated it looks, it's just a box. You can edit the box, which is just cutting corners out and then filling those in, and eventually making the shape you want it, but everything is just a box. Even layering, it's just a box. It's just how you make it. For example, this F2000, it looks crazy, right? But it's also just a box. You make the side 2 panels, and then for that groove in the front of the trigger, you just cut it out and then fill it in with a piece of paper. And for the top, you just make the base shape and then cut stuff out and then add stuff on top of it. Everything is just a box. For example, MG42, it's pretty simple as well. It's just a big box, and then you just change the edges and refine them until you get the shape right. And also the back, it's all just sides, and then add the top. Sometimes you don't add the top, sometimes you leave stuff out, sometimes you cut into the box, sometimes you just, you get the point. Everything is a box. Even something like a break action shotgun, for the stock, it's just side panels, and then you put the top together, and then you make them curved. That's also how I make my curved grip. It originates from a box kind of thing, side panels, and then the top and the bottom. Sometimes I don't do the bottom, something like that. And then the front as well, and everything else. Even the barrels is technically a box because you're just rolling the piece of cardboard or paper, and that makes the barrel. Or pins. Well, knowing that it is a box isn't going to get you that far. You need to know how to make it. And so now I'm going to go over some basic ways to make a nice box. And so this is the way I use. So I draw out the width first of the strip that I'm going to connect the side panels with. So of course you need side panels first. You see those 2 outer lines, outer sides and the middle. So I peel off the top 2 layers of the outer sides and leave the middle intact by using a knife, of course, cutting out the lines. Then I peel it off and only has the top layer, and the middle is still cardboard. And so I use that to cover up the stuff, so you won't see any corrugation showing, and that's how I make the big boxes. For some small parts, you just either use really small pieces of paper to layer them up, or you just use the piece of paper to cover the things if you're really lazy. Or it's a complicated part, you don't want to spend time drawing out the lines to cut and which ones to leave. You can watch my Wolf for PP how to, which I've used most of these methods as well, and follow those tutorials, make some easy things first before going and trying with your own. And if it's a really big part, it doesn't really matter, even if you show corrugation, because it's too big to really do stuff. If you really want to, of course you can, but sometimes if the part is easy enough, like for example, this is my G11's really long magazines. If the part is easy enough, you don't really have to cut stuff out and put them together. In fact, if you do that, it might look worse. So sometimes you can just fold the cardboard and make it into a square, but remember you have to have an edge that is just the top layer of the cardboard so you can actually cover the thing. Basically like a tab. And that's also a way to make boxes, but it only works for simple stuff. And this similar method also works for tubes. For example, an M4 receiver, the base thing is a tube, so you roll it up, remove the inner corrugation and the really top layer, and then leave the wavy stuff and the bottom layer and curve it into a tube. Then depending on what you're doing, you might cover the bottom or leave it open, or before you even cut the thing out, you have to consider the whole part if you're doing this method, because if you fuck up one bit, you have to do the whole thing again. So as my earlier example, like the F2000, the box isn't just a simple box, you have to add stuff to it and slowly make it into a box. But you start with a box, as you can see with this, my 600 Special Rensho Ho-chan. I started off with a base plate and then I added stuff onto it, similar to how you make a box, but it's a It's not just a square box. Some really small parts, they're made differently. You don't have to use a specific piece of cardboard. You can just use the top layer to cover the corrugation. It's like a piece of paper over your thing because the cardboard itself is a box. And then you cut out the front side shape, cover the other side so it looks the same on both sides. I mean, the color, unless your cardboard is the same color on both sides, then you just cover the top, and that's a box as well because the cardboard itself is a box, and you're covering with a paper, and that's still a box. And that's usually how you make really small parts. And if you want to reinforce your box, you have to be aware of where stuff will interact with each other, so you don't just put your reinforcement there and block it from moving. And if you did that, sometimes if it's a small gun, it's hard to remove, and I've experienced that, trust me. So you should, which brings us to the next three rules, kind of rules, I guess, where you need to understand the gun, which you understand it from doing research, and then you know the dimensions by measuring, and so yeah. So you won't just block everything from working and won't mess up. And so you have to be careful with your box. 2. Cardboard is not metal. Springs, sometimes if you use springs, might be too strong. And rubber band as well. Which at first won't seem like a problem, but over time, this would happen. As you can see here, this is clearly bending when I do this, and it's not going like a straight piece, and yeah, that would happen, and it's really bad. So you can see if I pull this all the way here, it should go to the fur back. But now it's only going like really little. This happens, you can see it clearly bend. Yeah, but you know, if your thing is strong enough, it won't happen at all. So don't use a too strong spring like this one. As you can see. Oh, this, my invention. Or if you just directly 100% follow how your thing is actually built in real life with metal. Some parts might be too weak and they'll break, and you usually can't get edges 100% precise. So really tiny parts might break easily or just don't work. Or for example, a really high wear part, for example a charging handle on AK, which as you can see, this is my old AK. 74U. This is completely bent, and when you pull it, you have to pull it like here, and it still works, but it's really fragile. But now on these new ones, which I've now mastered the way of making AK bolts, you can see it doesn't really bend. You can pull the whole bolt back and still work. And it pretty much doesn't bend at all. So basically you need to come up with smart ways to make that part work with cardboard. And yeah, you have to be smart, which is one of the parts we'll talk about later. I think it was. 3. The order of making anything. Make the part, dry fit it. Of course you should have a way to pull it back out, like a wire or something attached. Mark it down with a pencil or something, then glue it in. Remember, dry fitting is important. Otherwise, you'll put the thing in and realize that you fucked up like 20 minutes later and you can't do anything about it. Here, for example, my AK-47 dust cover, if I never dry fitted the dust cover and to see if the shape actually matches the gun, and if I make it too big or too small, you would probably fail because the shape would be wrong, and then it just won't work, and then you have to remake the whole thing because you already glued everything in together. So you have to fit stuff in first before putting it in. Or for example, when making this charging handle here, I have a piece of cardboard rod going inside and then folding back in. If I just made that without dry fitting, I wouldn't know, like sometimes it might be too thick or too long, and I wouldn't know that, and I just stuck there with a charging handle that's too long, and that's the end of it because I already glued it in and there's no way to take it back out. Yeah. Or like details, for example, for like these holes, if you never
marked it down with a pencil, you just put a hole blindly, you might just it might just doesn't fit and won't work. So yeah, you get the point. Dry fitting, just do it. It doesn't take that much time. It's a really good thing to do, and you should probably do it.
4. Try and understand the details and the shape of the gun or whatever you're making as much as you can so you don't have to guess while making the details. Remember, I said details specifically. We'll go back to that later. And realize that you messed up and have to redo it or continue with that bad spot, similar to dry fitting. And don't guess. Look at it, double check, and it'll work out for you in the end.
Here's a simple example. Guess what is on the other side of the receiver. Guess if you don't know how this looks like. Is it just like this, the same shape, or is it or is there something that the dust cover sits on? Well, let's see for ourselves and remember your answer. There we go. We can see that there's this little piece here that's extended from the back, and it's not just a piece of flat piece like this side. And how do I know that? Research. And typically, that's why you shouldn't guess, cause you should. This is a major part, but knowing this is good. And so yeah, left and right is different. So remember that, and usually these details are best if you have a video that has everything, because you usually can see both sides and not pictures. Because unless of course you're using an auction site, those normally will be the same pictures of the same gun. But if it's just random online pictures, they might be different models or different kind of guns, and exceptions do happen. So yeah, here's another example for the AK. Look at this sight. You see on this side there's nothing here. There's only a round thing. So naturally, if you don't know how AK looks like, what do you think of the other side of this? Is it just like this, right? You would normally just think that. Well, there's this thing here. So yeah, remember, understand the details. And this does nothing. You can't move it on mine, at least. So yeah, understand the details and don't guess them.
Unless you absolutely couldn't find anything on it, then yeah, guess it. Remember, this rule only works for details, because working parts are different. Well, you also need to understand the working parts too, but because of what we talked about before, cardboard is not metal, and you need to change stuff. For working parts, you shouldn't follow it 100%, and to make it work like how the real one is, you need to use alternative ways. And to be able to actually do that and making it work, you will need all our next 3 topics combined together to make it work like the real one. Keep in mind that it working doesn't mean like it looking like the actual thing. For example, like you can use a rubber band to replace a spring, but you can't put the rubber band in the same place as the spring because that won't work. We will talk about that more later on those 3 topics. Also, if you're really stuck on working parts, you can go to the description, as I have a few videos on how to make different parts, and as well as curved grips. I'll put these 3 together because they're all important to making the gun, basically. They're all equally important, and I don't really know how to put them apart. So let's start. I'm going to go over what these things mean, and then I'll say the entire thing together. So patience, everybody says patience is important. Everyone says that because it is. Yeah, you need a lot of patience in keeping yourself together and not giving up and making the part out. Trial and error, which I'll talk about later. About you have to keep retrying and remaking the part until it's actually right and does what you want it to do and looks like what you want it to be, which also requires patience in that process, and experience, which pretty much you definitely need if you're going to build a good thing. Experience is the first thing I'm going to talk about. First of all, experience is almost a must for making anything and doing anything well. Here is a detailed explanation of how I started. So basically, one day I was in school. I forgot what class this was. I was like 11 or 12, I think. And I just thought I had some paper near me and some tape and a snack box which I've just eaten from the past recess. And so I just randomly made something with tape and stuff, and I made a Remington sniper. And the reason I got that thought and actually did the thing is because my mom doesn't buy me toys, and especially guns or like airsoft or stuff. Basically, no toys. Hong Kong parents, Asian parents, am I right? So I was like, fine, I'll do it myself. And I did exactly that. I mean, to me, that day I was like, whoa, I could make something like this. I spent like 2.5 hours. So after that, I made another one. I made an M4 during class again. Um, because not to brag, but school was pretty easy at that time. I was just in grade 6, early grade 6. So like all the stuff they're teaching, it's like really easy and I can do all my tests and stuff fine. So the teacher didn't really mind me. And I just made the M4 and I took it home, of course. These were 3.5 years ago, so of course they look like shite compared to the stuff I make now. Keep in mind, back then I had like 30 minutes to go on my phone every day. I didn't have a computer, so I couldn't like do any research. This is all just from memory and like videos I've watched of gamings and stuff. Cause like every day I can only watch like one YouTube video and that's all. And so, like I pulled this off, and like now that I think of it, it's actually pretty cool. But anyways, so basically, I just thought, you know, let's not use a snack box because that just looks bad. So I used the same paper, which is just like note cards, and I stuck them together, and I just made guns using the box method and rolling stuff, and I made the FAMAS on the bottom. And at that time, I already had working parts. I used a little bit of Lego, like a little cheat. I made a working bolt somehow, and a working mag as well. The triggers is the same way I make. It's like those glued-in triggers that semi work, and it had a working safety. So that was pretty cool, innit? So then built some other stuff, which in that picture I don't really have them in here because either I gave them away or I just threw them away. I built an L2A3 in my friend's house and I gave it to his brother, and that was pretty cool. What isn't cool is that he broke in the fucking day. Fuck you, man. I spent like 2 hours as well. So back then I didn't really spend that much time. And one of the reasons is because Hong Kong, you still, even though the stuff is easy at that time, I still had homework. And it's not just normal homework. It's loads of homework. You have to get ready for dictations, tests, exams. Oh my gosh, that sucks, man. Hong Kong education system sucks ass. So I didn't really have much time, and so I only built like really little guns. But even though I didn't have a lot of time, I still kept on doing it little by little. And then eventually I pieced together some like pretty cool guns. And then like you see later on, there's a Kar 98K, a AWM, Scar, PDW, Chris Vector, AA12, Uzi, and a sort of shotgun. And like, there's like a few more, but I don't remember. I think I built a BFG50 and a P90. Yeah. And so after that, I was in year 7 for 3 months in Hong Kong because that time Australia starts school 3 months after Hong Kong. I mean, like 4 actually. There's 1 month where I was in Australia, like getting settled down. So I just was overwhelmed basically because the transition, and just didn't really have much time to build stuff. So I only made the Kar 98K and I think one more gun, but I forgot which one was it. So then that passed. We moved house and stuff. Went to Australia. I got some paper and I still used tape. And I built my AK-47, which is on the left of this picture. Then we finally got a house to stay in, and I was just sitting there one day and I thought, paper isn't that good. To be honest, it isn't that good. I built them for a year and a half maybe. And what I thought was, they're not sturdy and they wiggle a lot because paper, you know. And so I'm gonna try cardboard, you know. I've seen people make some cardboard guns. I think I can try it. Since I got loads of cardboard from moving house and, you know, like new fridge, new washing machine, all of that. but I need to practice. So I made the Hecate. And up until this point, I'm still just doing it myself without tutorials and anything, because it's just paper and it's not really detailed. It's just a box, pretty much. Unlike some of the other ones, like later on, I of course gained experience and made them complexer. But like my Hecate, I have a video on that. It's my first cardboard gun video on my channel, so that was pretty cool. So for these two guns, I both have used hot glue, tape, cardboard, and paper. So it's like teaching myself how does cardboard work. I don't have the Hecate anymore because I threw it away already. And then I made the M4, which, yeah, M4s are hard, I realized, and so I gave up. I mean, not gave up, I made it anyways, and it wasn't that good, so you can see on the second one. And then I was like, I think I'm ready. Let's go full on cardboard, boy! But there was one important thing. Remember what we talked about, time, and what I've endured during Hong Kong? And there's really not much time for me to do anything, even in the weekends. Well, I didn't know what to expect in Australia. Turns out, oh boy, I basically have nothing to do. Oh my gosh, man, this is epic. So yeah, lots of time. So then I saw Magical Amazing's Benelli M4, and I made the shotgun with his tutorial, and as you can see, it turned out pretty well. And then I did the 1911 from him as well, and the Karambit, and then like 2 or 3 more of his tutorials, and then I tried to make my own, the Dragunov, which, yeah, it was pretty cool. And then things just went up on there. I just kept doing and improving and improving. So, yeah, as you can probably have seen, or like all my AKs, as you can see, first it's a paper one with just everything is bad. And then I built the AK-74U with some working parts and a folding stock, but still not perfect and still had a little bit of flaws everywhere. And then my Groza, which I improved even a little bit more with the bolt. And then my AK-47 Type 2, which in my opinion is really good, man. So as you can see from my example, experience is really important for me to make the AK-47 Type 2. If I hadn't made any of the older AKs, I probably wouldn't have done the Type 2 that well. That's pretty much experience, and all of the stuff I've talked about combined together got me here. And now I'm able to make my own and do all the stuff I told you before and make them alone without any help at all. So experience is very important. Also, your experiences and fails and successes can lead you to developing new ways to make, change and manipulate the cardboard to make it into a very good part, or like shortcuts or ways to make special things, etc., etc. These, like how I made my curved grips now, is also from experience. So yeah, experience can help you make new ways and new methods to make stuff, like special tips and tricks to make your things work well, and you can improve them to make them even better next time. So basically what I'm saying is, you won't make the perfect creation on your first try. You must keep making, and over time your skill will increase through practice and each creation, making your creations better and better, because you gained experience through practice. Yeah, experience is really important. I just can't say enough how important this is, so to even further prove this to you, I've got 2 really good cardboard creators as well here. Links in description. Sharing the experiences of how they started off. Enjoy!
Many years ago, and I don't exactly remember how many that was, but many years ago I saw a YouTube channel called Indie Mogul make a Thompson submachine gun out of some pieces of sheet metal and some other stuff. And I thought, hey, I could do that, but of course all I had at the time was some cardboard, so I decided to try it, and thus the Thompson that I made, the first ever gun I made with cardboard, was born. It was not very good. There was a lot wrong with it. It was ugly. I still have it for some reason. But that was really how I started the whole thing. Now, I wasn't happy with the way that first gun turned out. It was, like I said, there was a lot wrong with it. But I didn't let that get me down and decided to try again. And this time I wanted to do something a little bit smaller, so I found another YouTube channel by the name of Psychotic Hobbit, I think. I don't even know if the videos are still around, but he did a YouTube video tutorial on how to make a cardboard pistol, and that's how that first 1911-ish looking thing that I made was born. I followed his tutorial, and again, it wasn't very good, but it got me started thinking about how you can make guns out of cardboard, and only cardboard and paper. With the experience from those two attempts fresh in my mind, I pushed forward and started building more and more guns. They started out pretty bad. Now, I don't even have a lot of the original guns or early guns that I made because it wasn't even worth keeping them. But it started to allow me to hone my skills and figure out exactly how I liked building and the best way to go about doing different things. Years ago, years after I started, and years ago by now, I decided maybe it was worth the effort to try and cover the corrugation and stop trying to leave that weird looking layer of cardboard around the edges of my parts. Then I built my dispenser. That was the first ever project that I did that I attempted to cover the corrugation, and it looked a heck of a lot better than I expected it to. So it really got me thinking, hey, maybe I should try this and continue doing this on most, if not all, of my guns. Now, obviously, you know how that turned out, because now all of my guns, I put a fairly heavy emphasis on covering the corrugation because it makes everything just look cleaner and more crisp. Now, there are some situations where it's very difficult to do and I don't bother, but for the most part, I do try and cover it. And it's pretty important to realize that this did not come quickly to me. Like I said, it took a few years of playing around to figure out that this is the way to go forward and this is how you make your guns look better. Removing the corrugation, or removing the layer of cardboard from the corrugation to bend tubes better and tighter and smoother, that was another thing that came later. And my guns just kept improving and improving with every one that I made. And with every gun you make, you pick up new little bits of information and techniques of how to do certain things that you otherwise probably wouldn't have thought of, and they came about out of necessity. And that's important because that means that in the future, not only will you not have to spend time thinking about how you're going to do a certain part, but you're also going to be able to do it and make it look nice. Practice, practice, practice. One of the most detrimental aspects of my personality and my disposition at doing new things and trying new things is the fact that if I don't get something just right the first time, it really gets me upset and annoyed, and it tends to put me off doing whatever that thing is, even if working at it can result in very large improvements, as it often does. And that's something I know a lot of people struggle with, and it's very important to realize that usually the more you do something, the better you'll get at it. So if something doesn't quite go your way the first time, it doesn't really matter. You can always try again. The only person that you're measuring against is yourself. So if you just don't expect perfection initially the first time, which is never going to happen, and you'll never really get that, but you'll get better and better. As long as you don't expect it first time and get angry when you don't achieve it, you will keep getting better, and you'll get closer and closer to what you think and expect you should be able to do. Take my FP45 Liberator, for example. That thing was... I didn't expect it to be very difficult, but it ended up taking 3 tries for me to get it to work. And every time something a little bit, I realized, oh, I'm forgetting, or I'm doing wrong, and this needs to line up, or this or the other thing. Doesn't matter. I got very upset the first time that I ended up having to scrap it, and I got even more angry that I had to scrap it a second time. But by the third time, those first 2 I learned from, and ended up getting it right. And I used a lot of those particular tips that I learned for lining things up and making curves and certain things like that. I used those in my more recent gun as well, the Lewis gun. I think to sum up, the most important thing when trying to get anything right is to keep doing it, because eventually you will. It might not be quick, and it might not be exactly what you want, but the more you do it, the better you'll get, generally speaking.
Back in like 2014, 2015, maybe earlier, I started off making cardboard like little duct tape swords to play around in the backyard. Essentially, me and my brother would beat each other with them. That kind of stemmed into, hey, how can I make this look good? I wanted to make a sword that actually looked good, so I made the broadsword. That's when I started to actually, rev up and start making stuff. And I started to make like guns. I started to work on guns more. I think I made an LMG when I was starting out. I mean, it wasn't really that good, but it was a start, and that's where I started to enjoy making guns. Um, then I started to kind of evolve my way of thinking of making these. So I started to look up on YouTube and started to look around on cardboard stuff. It started to bloom. I found some prop making channels, and I started applying some of their techniques that they use. And I started to apply them to my builds. I started making the colonial musket, my first kind of actual gun. That's when I started to make good stuff. Then that kind of bloomed into the second kind of early stages of my channel. This is when I started to actually focus on what I'm doing and how can I improve stuff. I made the ray gun at this time. I started using templates and making stuff like and layering and coming up with new techniques and different ways of actually making cardboard props. So then we come up to kind of the assorted stage. This is when I made my Colt 1911. I started to cover corrugation. I started to use different techniques, and one I'm personally proud of is that I still use today is not only the covering corrugation but also the rounded 1911, the layered rounded 1911 top, where I take paper and I round kind of the layers on the belt sander or on using my utility knife, and then I wrap the paper around, creating a round surface on top. That's when my build started to take off. Right after that, I made my World War II Sten, and I started to gain skill and actually make good quality cardboard props. Kind of a sad thing. After I did that group of videos, stretching to about the Taurus Raging Bull 44 Magnum. That's when I started to hit kind of like a burnout, and I kind of just didn't really like making stuff during that time. And I kind of just burned out. I stopped uploading for a little bit and kind of just had an iffy time there. And then I got right back up to it. I started to make stuff. I started to get excited about it again. This is what I call modern times. And that's usually 2018 all the way till present. Um, I made my World War II Thompson. It started with a Thompson till present day. That's when I started playing around instead of layering. That's when I started to play around with boxing and how can I make moving parts and stuff to make things look cool and actually make a good prop, quote unquote. And then after that was my cardboard Uzi. And then shortly after that was my Draco pistol, which was probably the first legit gun that I actually made. That was the first legit one that actually had moving parts. The mag came out, and it kind of reminded me of Magical Amazings props. And I looked at myself and I was like, it's not that hard. I looked into myself. I'm like, I can do this. I can be like magical. Started making like my most recent ray gun, which honestly I love it. It looks great. And then I made my Glock, and then my M4s came out, and then my Desert Eagle, and that's when I started to really just crank up the quality. That's when I started to honestly get serious and want to do this, and that was during the quarantine part of 2020, and now uh, come to modern times. Right now, I just built my Karn 88 and my Rick's portal gun. But due to me being almost 18 years old, I need a job. I'm going to college soon. I'm doing stuff that requires a lot of attention to life. But I'm going to continue. I'm going to push on, see if I can continue doing this because I love this. I love the people in this hobby. Suck, you're awesome. Everyone is awesome. Everyone is great. Eventually, going to get to a point where I'm like, guys, I really can't do this anymore, and then I'll have to quit. But that's in the far, far future. I still plan on making videos enjoying my time on YouTube and laughing and making stuff with friends on here as well. So I think one of the most important things to get better and better is kind of is to watch videos on YouTube, watch videos, see, look at the different techniques that are available to you, and apply those to your builds. And of course, you could just uh, do this hobby and see if you can, figure stuff out yourself. But there's also videos out there for you to watch. That's why Suck, Magical Amazing. Just there's so many people on YouTube that will show you ways to do this. It took me about 5 years to get to the point where I'm at right now. It was a hard 5 years. It really honestly was. If you're kind of in a block where you don't want to make something, don't do it. You don't have to. No one's saying that you do. You don't have to make something. Like literally, I could just be like, "Hey guys, I don't want to make a Warhammer today," and then just not make it. But the thing is, I want to. I love doing it, so I'm going to. So yeah.
Well, thanks to those guys. Their links will be in the description. Go check them out. They make very high quality guns as well. Now comes our next part. Trial and error and patience. So, to make a good working part, you need to understand how it works. And when you try and make it, you have to put in reinforcements. And to do that, you will need smart thinking to actually make it not obstruct anything that's moving, and luck to see if it works out in the end. Those two topics will be covered later. Like my G36C bolt handle, I did not make it the first try and make it work. I spent like 6 hours figuring it out. The real one is made with a spring. I used the rubber band instead. I tried to use the spring at first, but it didn't work because we talked about the reason in the previous part. Understanding which cardboard is not metal and you can't get all cuts 100% precise, so it didn't work. Then I tried a few different methods with trial and error and it ended up working. So the base mechanism worked, so I added details and then made it my charging handle, then glued it into the bolt. So when you think that you will most likely fail the first try and you will need some trial and error, don't just glue the part in immediately to your gun and then do the thing on it. Make the part out first before putting it into your gun, so to make it actually be able to work. Like for example, when you're making a trigger, if I just glued in the pin right away and it turned out it didn't work, I have to waste a lot of time taking the pin out and maybe even damaging the cardboard in the process, so that would be really bad. If I'm making a grip, which like my G11, I had to redo the grip once because I failed the first time. I made it too big. So if I glued it in the side panels first and then I curved it from there, that would have been really bad. And so basically, if you think that part is really dangerous and easy to mess up, make it first. Finish that part separately before gluing it to your perfectly finished 100% main body of the gun, so your efforts on making that main body won't be wasted. Don't glue it onto the gun unfinished, then finish it while it's on the gun, and then if you fail, you're basically screwed, and you can try taking it out, but it'll be really hard to not damage the cardboard while doing so. It's going to be bad. To do all of this and to make your details nicely and working parts great, you will need all of these. And even for details, you will need trial and error as well sometimes. For like really crazy details, for example, like a base frame door for the F2000, you definitely need some testing and dry fitting to make it good. But most details don't really have to do that. Also, one tip is if you're making a really big part and it's complex and it's like you have to measure it, get a smaller piece, like a scaled down piece of that part, and see if it actually fits and works, so you don't have to waste your cardboard. Yeah, that's a good thing. So see, when you make a tube, for example, for your M4 receiver, you probably wouldn't know how long the cardboard needs to be to be rolled up, right? So if you just cut it out anyways and then just try and roll it, either you're going to cut out too much and waste the cardboard or not enough. So what I do is I take a really slim slice, like that's the same length, and then I just roll it up and see if it's right. If it's right, then I'll use it. If it's like too short, then I'll extend the length and try again with another piece of really small one, and then do it again. This is also trial and error. Well, so patience, trial and error, and experience are really important, and if you have them all, you can basically do well. So, which now I've talked about thinking and luck and practice before a lot of times. So here we go. So before that, methods first, because this part I actually forgot to put in. I forgot to make. So one day a guy asked me a question about something similar, so I just suddenly remembered. So yeah, here we go.
How to cut cardboard well. You have your cardboard here. So first of all, we start from the very basic. Choosing the cardboard. Get a piece that doesn't have a lot of wrinkles or like visible lines. But the back is fine because you won't see the back. Like one side that's nice, and you'll choose that to be your face of the gun, I guess. And then when you cut it, so you have a base picture of the gun. You cut the part you want to make out, and then you put it on the paper, on the cardboard, and then you like sketch it out on the outsides with a really sharp pencil, so the lines will be precise, basically. And then for the really long straight parts, I just use the scissors. I use heavy duty cool scissors that just cuts through the cardboard easily, whereas those stupid school scissors just are bad. So don't use those scissors. Magical Amazing has a video on that.
On how school scissors are shite.
But mostly what I'm getting at is use a knife, basically. Just use a knife. You have your lines, use a knife to just follow those lines and follow them. So for example, like this, you have triangle. You use your knife to just cut out these parts, and then if your triangle has like tiny parts like this, and then with a hole inside, first remember you have to cut the hole out first, so your outside will be supported by the whole thing. After you cut the hole out, you cut these little tiny bits, so the big parts are still supported, and after that you can cut these easy lines out, and because they're just easy, one straight line. So you have to know the procedure. So if there's any like holes in your piece, cut them out first. Unless it's a really big piece, like a bottom receiver or something, then yeah, that's fine. But if it's like a pistol hammer, cut the holes out first. It works very well. It works way better.
And you can see I have talked about this in my PP tutorial when I was making the hammer.
And you won't have like wrinkles and like fold downs from the cardboard because you cut the hole after you cut the piece out. So let's do an experiment. I'll show you how different it is. I'll draw the same shape like this, something like this, and now I'm going to cut it out. Then, this is something I'll talk about later. Use something to punch a hole. Doesn't have to be a big hole. There we go, that's a little hole. And then you cut these little sides out carefully. So another thing, patience and stuff involves when you're cutting the cardboard as well. So when you finish these like indents, you can cut the rest. Like just don't cut it all the way yet, just give it a little start and then do the same. Be careful and slow, and be patient and careful. And so now you will see that now I just have to do this, and I don't even have to worry about that thing. I just cut over it because I already cut it. So when I do this and just gently, and look at the back as well and check if these happen. These happens a lot of time. You have to finish the cut from the back of the thing, and then just push it out and then voila. And now after this, we're going to just make it even better from the bottom. So you just use your scissors, just chop it down, make it precise and clean. And then you can do the same for the other side.
So to be more clear, what I'm saying is sometimes when you cut the piece out, because your knife won't be perfectly angled, sometimes the bottom might be bigger than the top. You don't want that, so you just cut out the bottom so it looks the same, and top and bottom.
So yeah, there we have it. It's a cool little triangle thing with all, as you can see. So what if we did it the normie way? What if we did it the bad way? So I'll just do this first, just very simple, cut it out, and then I'll just chop it. This is just for speed. You can cut the whole thing out, but it's pretty much the same anyways. Just gonna do this. There we go. Now I can make the sides, but I'm going to show you how hard is it to make the middle now. So if I try and support the cover from the bottom, I'm going to stab myself. If I try and do this, yeah, I can, but it's hard. And eventually I'll mess up because there's nothing supporting it. You can do it on the table as well, but then it will be, something will happen to your table probably. But then like this is just really hard and it's dangerous. You can see I'm trying to punch it. I mean, I can still do it, but you can see this wrap in the cardboard and it changes the shape. And then the sides, you just can't use a knife anymore. So you use this, and then this will happen when you try and cut it from both sides. Like, it just looks way worse. So trust me, be careful and slow with your cuts. And then you can't cut the bottom the same, make it the same, and stuff will happen. It's just bad. So yeah, trust me. Use your knife and make it slow, steady, and draw your shape out before doing any cutting. That's the small stuff. What about the big stuff? So I've talked about using the scissors, so that's one way. And which I'll talk about later even more about the scissors, like cons. But now I can't do this with two arms. I have a tripod all the time. So just when you have a line here and you have like a really big straight piece, just hold a metal ruler the best. Just cut it, slice it like this. Slice it like slowly, so you won't just pierce the cardboard if anything goes wrong. So do it slowly and then like just scratch the surface a little and then just do it deeper every time. So you will slowly cut it nicely. Yeah, that's pretty much how I cut. There's a lot of ways. If you have watched my videos long enough, you probably have noticed like my lines, like the edges are all like kind of, I put like glue on it so it looks nicer than like a raw black line. And even if it's like not perfectly, I kind of like blends it in to make it look like it's smooth and clean. And yeah, that's pretty much how you can make it extra clean, like the lines. You just put a little bit of glue on the edge and then wipe it off so it's just a really tiny amount. And then you can have like a sort of blend to the both sides. And yeah, and then I trim off like stuff that goes extra. Like if it's too long on this side, I just trim it off carefully with the scissors. That's if you use the knife, it will have like really weird stuff and you sometimes might accidentally poke this thing. So scissors are good for this use as well. That's just another tip. So that's not the only method of cutting cardboard, but there are a lot out there. There are a lot of different methods for different things. So you can mostly find them everywhere and learn new ones or just create them yourself, which you can create them by doing everything I've told you in this video. But eventually, someday I'll put some polls in the Discord server for you guys to choose what kind of method tutorials you want to see. Something like the trigger one. So join the Discord server in the description. Anyways, for example, like I've said before, working triggers, curved grips, they have methods to make them, and they all have like alternatives, but I have made tutorials on them.
and they're on the description, and I'll make more of these and just as time goes on and add them in the description, because if I put everything in this video, well, I can't put the new things I discover when I make them, and I won't get this out in time, and also the video length would go up to like 5 hours, which no one would watch. So basically, to do things effectively, to be able to come up with tips and tricks, to be able to make the working parts work, to be able to create those working parts and like form the shape of it, to be able to make the details and the special things, you will need to think. You will need to use your brain. Here in this section or segment, I'll also add some things that actually kind of belongs to mindset, but it doesn't really fit if it goes in the first bit, so I'll put it here as basically, if you want to achieve all of those before, you need thinking as well. So thinking is really important, basically. If you don't know how to think, you're not going to be able to do anything. So yeah. First of all, be humble. Bitch, be humble. Don't think that you are the best. Don't think that you can do everything on your own. Everyone's stupid and stuff like that. Because there's always something that you can learn from other people. And so look up on YouTube, look up on websites or whatever you can find, I don't know. But yeah, basically just watch other people, look at their videos, just like what Andrew said, watch other people, and you will know how to do stuff because they will make tutorials, or like if you watch enough of them, you will see their pattern and like absorb it and think how to do it. And then eventually you can be like, oh yeah, that's how they do it. Let me try that next time. And then with enough practice and experience, you can make it. So that's one thing. Second, don't be stubborn. Always try something new. Like for example, before, all the way from very long ago, I made a honey badger, which is a AR-15 type. There was no curved grip, no working trigger, no detailed rails, no special springs and stuff like that. And then on my HK416, I was like, hey, maybe I should try and make a curved grip. Which is the first time I just tried, and so I did. The first one wasn't great. Don't get me wrong, the first one wasn't great. But eventually it got better and better because I got experience and learned how to make it and the basic principles of it. Then I improved it through thinking, experience, and practice, basically. And today, I'm pretty good at making them, and I make them all on all of my guns. And my working triggers as well. One day I just thought, let me try and make a trigger work so it's more fun. So I did, and I tried it, and I did. It worked now. I went through a couple of tries. The first few are wobbly and unstable. Now they're perfectly inside and they can even be taken out. I don't even have to glue the pin in. So the stand, I just coiled up a wire. I tried to make that as a spring. It didn't really work that well. But then I thought of another way. I used the coils on top of sketchbooks and I made my PP slides work. And they work reliably. And so I make my AR-15 after that as well, which has the spring in the back. And also stuff like covering corrugation. And there's really a lot more of these examples, but I won't list them all because you're probably bored already. It's been an hour. So thinking also involves thinking about how your tools work, which is one of the next topics. But think about how the cardboard works, how you can make it do what you want. And just keep thinking, guessing, and trial and erroring, trying, practice, and then eventually you'll get it. For example, if you want to make a handguard or something, you would make it following the lines. So when you fold it, it will follow the grooves and fold up, and not just get broken up by the straight lines. And so if you didn't think about how cardboard works and just drew it anyways, you might just mess up and not be able to fold the cardboard, and that will probably make it look really bad. Also, when you make a gun, before you make it, look at it and try and figure out what weak parts there are, or also from watching other people's videos. For example, for an AR-15 or M4, you can clearly see that the stock part is always bent downwards for some reason on a lot of people's guns. So you would think about it and then try and think how to reinforce that part so it doesn't fold down, which I did for my Beowulf. So yeah, think about where are the weak parts and try and think about how you can improve them. So yeah, think about how your tools work. Lastly, Think positively every time. Don't let one failed attempt stop you forever. Don't think that, oh, I failed this time, I give up. Just like Magical Amazing said, when he made his Liberator, just the first time you failed, but if you don't just think that, oh, I failed, I give up, I don't want to do this anymore, then just if you think positively and say, oh, I failed, let me just try again, then you can probably do it one day. Because you will learn from where you failed, like which part you messed up, and you will try and get it right next time. Of course, if you really don't want to build it anymore, then build something else. Don't let it get you down and stop doing anything completely. Forever. Try not to let other people's creation make you sad. But I know it's hard because I sometimes do myself, so rise up, think how you can beat them. Don't think like this is going to be my best creation. I'm going to do the absolutely peak of my performance, absolute limit of me. This is going to be the best creation ever. This is the best thing I could make. And then after you've made it, and presumably you didn't fail, you look at someone else's and you just maybe you get let down by their quality, or like maybe they just are better than you, and then maybe because they done the stuff longer than you, they have more experience, they have more time, they've done more research, so you just get really sad. Be proud of yourself, be proud of your build, be proud of what you have achieved, and maybe try next time. Eventually you can beat him. Basically what I'm saying is eventually you'll get it and be able to create what you want to make. Think positively. So this concludes our thinking segment, and to our next one. I know it's repetitive, it's annoying, but it's true. Practice, it's very important, and with enough practice you can do anything. And there's a lot of examples, and you have probably experienced them yourself. For example, if you're trying to beat a game that has like special levels, you just have to keep doing it until you get like the memory of how you do it, and then you can do it. It's that simple. Practice makes perfect. And so, practice and practice and practice. Eventually you'll get it. If your first try fails, which is very likely, then think about where you messed up and try again, and then keep going and again and again and again until you finally get it. It takes time, but practice is everything, pretty much, and also the everything we talked about in this video. So the reason I put tools and space at like this very end, almost, it's because this is just a suggestion. You can pretty much use a lot of substitute. This is just a list of what I use. I'm going to give you a list here. So, cardboard, of course, obviously. To make everything. Paper, obviously. To make round objects, pins, and barrels. Hot glue and hot glue gun, of course. To glue everything, you can use like normal glue and super glue, but super glue you can't fix anything, and normal glue takes too long. Also, hot glue can strengthen stuff. Pair of scissors, not those like normal school scissors, but like heavy duty giant scissors. Those are used for cutting giant parts and trimming stuff quickly. A crafting knife or some sort of blade that is small, so you can cut out small parts in the shop, so your cuts would be clean. Rulers and pens to draw stuff and mark stuff. Wire to make sling mounts, tiny tubes or tiny pins. They are a good substitute than paper if you can't do it with paper. Also, you can coil them up to form a spring. Pen springs, usually more reliable than wire coiled up springs. Useful for making small parts like triggers and mag releases, which I have tutorials on how to make both things out of both rubber band and springs. Rubber bands for big working parts, or for small ones if you don't have a spring. Something sharp to drill holes with. You can use your scissors, your pencil, or like a drill head, whatever. And a hairdryer to melt hot glue in case you messed up. Also, good thing to know your tools well. For example, how you should use it to prevent like breakage, or be careful with them, or what flaws they have, how they can make your cuts nice, etc. So with experience, you can probably do this. For example, my scissors, my cardboard scissors, if they cut cardboard, it's one side will be broken and one side will be nice. So when I cut, I have to be aware of that and not cut the other way around. So that kind of thing you just have to learn from your experiences. So yeah, let's move on. Now on to space. This part's pretty simple. So basically, after you make a gun, or before you make a craft, at the end of the day, you need to have space to put them. For example, if you made a 40mm Bofors gun, if your house is like an apartment, you're not gonna have space to put it. If you live in an apartment, it will probably be best to make like submachine guns, pistols, small rifles, and so not like heavy machine guns, artillery, or like cannons or whatever. Consider before making a gun, do you have enough cardboard to make it? One of the reasons I haven't made an M107 yet is because I don't have a 1 meter long piece of cardboard to fold up to make the receiver piece. So yeah, consider that. Otherwise, for example, it's like an AR-15 handguard. You would finish all the back parts and you don't have enough cardboard to make the front, and that would be very sad. So yeah, make sure you have enough space to put the thing, store the thing, and to make the thing. Finally to our last part. I wonder how many of you are still watching. Well, we are finally into the last part of this video. Luck. Well, this is just very basic. If you're lucky, you can get things to work on the first try. If you're not, you'll fail and have to redo the whole thing, or have to use a couple tries. Sometimes I'm quite lucky, sometimes I'm not. To sum up, basically what I'm saying is no one can start with their own designs and like do it themselves. Start with a tutorial, choose something simple, don't like focus on all the details and working parts when you're first starting out. Get the basics ready, and so after that you can start doing more advanced stuff, and eventually you can do better, and then try and do it on your own would work. This, of course, obviously I can't cover everything because some of them I don't even know about. I hope I gave you the feeling that research is just really important. Methods and everything, you will basically create them yourself as you go along, because you just find a way to make it easier for yourself. So those things just kind of comes to you as you go along. The research part is basically the fundamental part that makes a good cardboard gun, and of course experience and patience and everything we've talked in this video. Well, if you've stayed till this part of this video, I would say I'm quite lucky. I wanna say thanks for watching till this part of the video, man. I want to say thank you for over 1,000 subscribers, and if this video helped you and you've watched this video for 1 hour and 30 minutes approximately, so like, if you aren't subscribed, come on, just click that button, click our sponsor with the bell on. Yeah, thanks. Like the video and comment something, and join my Discord server where you can suggest new guns and vote for them, and even show off your own stuff and a lot more. So all the links will be in the description, and with that I wish you all good luck in making cardboard models. Depending on when I decide to upload this, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and yeah, bye.